A very good evening to all my lovely children. I hope you've had an amazing week. Now, as the weekend starts, I have a very special story for you. The Red Daffodil. It was springtime, and all the daffodils were pushing their heads up towards the warmth of the sun. Slowly, their golden petals unfolded to let their yellow trumpets dance in the breeze. One particular field of daffodils was a blaze of gold like all the others, but right in the middle was a single splash of red, for there in the middle was a red daffodil. From the moment she opened her petals, the red daffodil knew she was different from the other flowers. They sneered at her and whispered to each other. "What a strange, poor creature," said one. "She must envy our beautiful golden color," said another. And indeed it was true. The red daffodil wished very much that she was like the others. Instead of being proud of her red petals, she was ashamed and hung her head low. "What's wrong with me?" she thought. "Why aren't there any other red daffodils in the field?" Passers-by stopped to admire the field of beautiful daffodils. "What a wonderful sight!" they exclaimed, and the daffodils' heads swelled with pride and danced in the breeze all the more merrily. Then someone spotted the red daffodil right in the middle of the field. "Look at the extraordinary flower!" the man shouted. Everyone peered into the center of the field. "You're right," said someone else. "There's a red daffodil in the middle." Soon a large crowd had gathered, all pointing and laughing at the red daffodil. She could feel herself blushing even redder at the attention. "How I wish my petals would close up again," she said to herself in anguish. But try as she might, her fine red trumpet stood out for all to see. Now, in the crowd of people gathered at the edge of the field was a little girl. People were pushing and shoving, and she couldn't see anything at all. At last, her father lifted her high upon his shoulders so that she could see into the field. "Oh!" exclaimed the little girl in a very big voice. "So that's the red daffodil! I think it's really beautiful. What a lucky daffodil to be so different!" And do you know, other people heard what the little girl said, and they began to whisper to each other. "Well, I must say, I actually thought myself it was rather pretty, you know." Before long, people were praising the daffodil's beauty and saying it must be a very special flower. The red daffodil heard what the crowd was saying. Now she was blushing with pride and held her head high as possible, as high as all the other daffodils in the field. The other daffodils were furious. "What a foolish crowd," said one indigently. "We are the beautiful ones." They turned their heads away from the red daffodil and ignored her. She began to feel unhappy again. By now, word had spread far and wide about the amazing red daffodil, and people came from all over the land to see her. Soon, the king's daughter got to hear about the red daffodil. "I must see this for myself," said the princess. She set off with a servant and eventually came to the field where the red daffodil grew. When the princess saw her, she clapped her hands with glee. "The red daffodil is more beautiful than I ever imagined," she cried. Then she had an idea. "Please bring my pet dove," she said to her servant. The man looked rather puzzled, but soon he returned with the bird. "As you know," said the princess to the servant, "I am to be married tomorrow, and I would dearly love to have the red daffodil in my wedding bouquet." The princess set the dove into the middle of the field, and it gently picked up the daffodil in its beak and brought her back to where the princess stood. The princess carried the daffodil back to the palace. She put the daffodil in a vase of water, and there she stayed until the next day. In the morning, the prince's servant took the red daffodil to the church. She could hear the bells and see all the guests assembling for the wedding ceremony. Then she saw the princess arrive in a coach driven by 4 white horses. How lovely the princess looked in a white gown and a head crowned with deep red roses. As the servant reached the church door, the princess lady in waiting stepped forward, holding a huge bouquet of flowers into which she placed the red daffodil just as the flowers were handed to the princess. For a while, the red daffodil was overcome by the powerful scents of the other flowers in the bouquet, but when at last she looked around, she realized with astonishment that all of them were red. There were red daisies, red lilies, red carnations, and red foxgloves. "Welcome," said one of the daisies. "You are one of us." And for the first time in her life, the red daffodil felt really at home. After the wedding, the princess scattered the flowers from her bouquet among the flowers in her garden. Every spring, when she opened her petals, the red daffodil found she was surrounded by lots of other red flowers, and she lived happily in the garden for many, many years. So, kids, what did you learn from this story? That you are unique. Do not let anyone shadow your uniqueness. Be proud of yourself, be confident about yourself, and most importantly, believe in yourself. Good night and sleep well. Don't forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe to my channel. See you soon with another bedtime story with Let Emotions Speak.